Today I rise on behalf of my coal communities, our coal miners who work every day to power our great nation. Now more than ever, we must do everything we can to ensure that we have policies in place that promote common sense approach to energy policy, and this includes coal. While this industry has typically only had to worry about detrimental policies coming from the federal government under the Obama and Biden administration, unfortunately now we are seeing unwarranted government overreach from our very own environmental and energy cabinet. Permitting delays that risk jobs, unnecessary red tape that reduces our competitiveness, and out-of-control regulatory proposals that would impose over $100 million in additional costs to the coal industry. One has to question if the cabinet even wants us to even mine coal in Kentucky. For example, one coal company in western Kentucky, the required permit that they have now would increase from $1 million to $17 million. As a businessman and former mayor, I know this $100 million isn't just a number. It's jobs, it's livelihoods, it's communities, it's schools, it's churches that are devastated. It's time to stop letting the red tape choke progress and start letting common sense lead the way. Senate Bill 89 addresses two issues in the area of permitting. First, the bill aligns with definitions of waters of the Commonwealth, where the federal definition of waters of the United States provide more clarity to the Kentucky business builders in the coal industries and farmers. Second, the bill codifies the definition of long-term treatment, as well as the method to calculate the amount of the bond required when long-term treatment is required. Before I close, I'd like to remind everyone that the late senator from Harlan was working to address this issue before his passing, and I'm honored to carry on his work today. As I always say when I'm talking about coal, God put coal under our feet so that we can use it. It's one of the greatest natural resources, and it's our job to push back on unelected bureaucrats that overstep and safeguard our constituents from government overreach. With that, Mr. President, I move for passage of Senate Bill 89.
Body is passage of Senate Bill 89. Are there any members seeking recognition for the purpose of question or discussion? Senator from Jefferson 35.
Thank you, Mr. President. May I speak on the bill?
Please proceed.
Thank you. Earlier this week, when this bill was posted to our committee, it took me until page 15 before I realized that it was about coal or the coal industry. And I will be the first to admit that I am not well versed on the topic of coal. However, I do have some understanding in the importance of coal to Kentucky and specifically to Eastern Kentucky. But when I heard about the change of regulations on Kentucky's water, I wasn't thinking about coal. I automatically thought about places like Flint, Michigan, and Memphis, Tennessee's current crisis with water. It also made me think about communities in Louisville, such as Rubbertown, which is an industrial area in West Louisville that lies along the Ohio River. I also thought about the recent chemical company explosion, Givaudan Sense Color, which is located on Payne Street, which is in the middle of the city in Louisville. And so today, I ask you all to imagine that instead of an explosion that caused chaos and air pollution, which from my understanding that the Energy and Environment Cabinet regulates that as well, that instead of air pollution, that it was a batch of chemicals that was dumped over on the plant property and started to leak into the groundwater. Imagine that those chemicals on the site are spent solvent wastes, which are usually liquid and classified as hazardous waste, as listed and identified in federal law. Spent solvent waste are common in manufacturing processes, especially in industrial cleaning supplies. Imagine that these solvent wastes started leaking in the groundwater at the chemical plant near Beargrass Creek, and people became aware of this because it moved via groundwater to another property. From my understanding, Mr. President, with this piece of legislation, the cabinet would lose ability to force the chemical company to let them on their property to inspect the groundwater and to ensure that there was proper cleanup. With that, Mr. President, I would ask, would the gentleman from Senate District 29 yield to a question?
Senator from Bell, would you yield to a question?
Yes, Mr. President.
Senator from Jefferson 35, he will yield.
Thank you. Given the scenario in which I just spoke about, that if that plant that was based in Louisville, if it was not air pollution, that it was a chemical spill that got into the ground, with this piece of legislation, who would have the authority to ensure that proper cleanup was done on that chemical spill?
Senator from Bell.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would assume that would be the Energy Environmental Cabinet, that's the ones that does it now.
Senator from Jefferson 35, you have further need.
Yes, if I could continue to speak on the bill.
Please proceed.
I appreciate it, Senator for District 29. I guess for me, from my understanding, based on the change of the definition of groundwater, that this legislation would not allow that. And so I hope that what your answer was just now is the correct answer, but it still gives me concerns. And I will say this, is that I know that this piece of legislation does find a solution to the particular industry, the coal industry, and to a particular region. But it is my fears that this piece of legislation is too broad and that it will impact other communities in an unintended way. And I hope that we can work together to find solutions that are a little bit more narrower, that will assist and help the industry, the coal industry, but would also make sure that all waters in Kentucky are protected, so we can ensure that we can continue the economic growth in which we're attempting to do, and then most importantly, to make sure that our Commonwealth stays beautiful, but then also ensure that all Kentuckians have access to clean drinking water. Thank you, Mr. President.
Any other member seeking recognition for the purpose of question or discussion on the bill? Senator from Henderson.
Speak on the bill, Mr. President.
Please proceed.
Mr. President, Senate Bill 89 is an attempt to have the executive branch act on some needed actions to help the development business and the coal business in the state of Kentucky. We've been after it for a while, and it just seems like there's just inaction there, and this is the legislature's response to this inaction. Mr. President, the global demand for oil and gas and coal are all at record levels and rising, anticipating to rise continually. Making energy more expensive, unreliable, compromises people, our national security, and yes, even the environment. Mr. President, we've seen this for the last 5-10 years. The attack on coal, the attack on coal, the business of coal. We've talked about this in this chamber around the letters ESG. Mr. President, this is just another way for liberals, Washington liberals, and yes, even Frankfurt liberals, to shut down the coal business, to make it harder for them to do business, even in a really challenging business environment. We've always had reasonable bonding around the coal business. That bonding's there for a reason, to be a backstop for problems that were to happen with operators if someone was to leave and cleanup needed to happen. Those bonds are reviewed continually, and even on a county level. Mr. President, in my county, we have a county-wide review process to make sure that our bonding is what is needed. To have inaction of the executive branch to cost a coal operator in my area a substantial amount of money puts jobs at jeopardy. We have about 1,400 coal mining jobs in Senate District 4. Those coal mining jobs are powering not only our state, our region, and our nation. And it's still very important to the state of Kentucky and to our district. So, Mr. President, this is just, once again, ideology versus practicality in terms of coal business. It's also that in the housing business. We had a task force this last session talking about housing. 209,000 housing units short in the state of Kentucky, but yet we have outrageous bonding requirements on developers that slow down housing development. Mr. President, a positive vote on Senate Bill 89 would help alleviate some of those concerns for folks that are trying to move Kentucky forward and power Kentucky into the future. So I ask for your vote. Thank you.
Any other members seeking recognition for the purpose of question or discussion on the bill? Senator from Clark.
Thank you, Mr. President. Speak on the bill, please.
Please proceed.
Mr. President, I want to take this conversation in a bit of a different direction. We're talking about here primarily ephemeral streams. Ephemeral streams are waterways, creeks, or even ditches they're dry year-round, except for when there's a significant rain event. In 2023, the United States Supreme Court ruled in Sackett versus EPA that the 1972 Clean Water Act should only apply to waters that are navigable year-round and not to these ephemeral streams. When left unchecked, the EPA since 1972 has continued to expand what qualifies as navigable waters. The Supreme Court said in a 9-0 decision that the EPA cannot claim more powers than Congress gave it. In keeping with this ruling, last year, the EPA determined that these ephemeral streams are not jurisdictional streams. Kentucky has yet to do this and has shown no signs that they intend to do so. In 2014, on a construction project, I was trying to permit a construction project, and I was walking around this project with one of these EPA persons. And I had dug a ditch myself with an excavator about 200 yards long. And this person said, "What about that stream?" And I said, "That's not a stream, that's a ditch that I dug." She said, "No, that's a stream." And I said, "It's a ditch." She said, "It's a stream if I say it's a stream." So it became a stream. And I was offered the ability to destroy that stream for tens of thousands of dollars. Almost $100,000 was going to be the cost to destroy that stream, which was a ditch that I had dug around the construction project. Currently, there are jobs across the Commonwealth that are held hostage. Property owners sometimes spend years fighting just to build a house. They'll fight these agencies until eventually they get the monies that the agency wants. Some people will try to frame this as a coal bill. While it may help coal companies, it's much more than a coal bill. This bill is going to help construction companies across the Commonwealth. And with that, I ask for your support on Senate Bill 89. Thank you.
Senator from Pike.
Thank you, Mr. President. I cannot agree with the statements of my colleague, the senator from Clark, or the senator from Henderson Moore. The bill that the senator from Bell has brought is absolutely necessary for the preservation of a vital industry within our Commonwealth, but also absolutely necessary for an overall problem within the Commonwealth, which is the development of housing to make sure that our citizens have a roof over their heads at night. But let's get really down to what the brass tacks are here. When our governor was running for governor the last time, I can tell you that things seemed to get a little bit better with the environmental cabinet back in eastern Kentucky. Permits were being issued more often. Things seemed to go a little bit more smoothly. But now that he seems to indicate he's looking for a higher office with a party that has a different set of priorities, the brass tacks and the screws start to get nailed down. and one of our vital industries of the Commonwealth is starting to be used as a political football. And our citizens don't deserve, our citizens are hardworking coal miners in Kentucky, are hardworking equipment operators within the Commonwealth of Kentucky, the developers, the people that are trying to put roofs over the heads of people in Kentucky don't deserve to be used as political footballs. All that we are doing is making sure that our environmental cabinet adopts the same standards utilized by the federal agencies. The same, no less, just that they're not more stringent so that they harm Kentucky businesses. I mean, that's just common sense. So I would ask my fellow colleagues here today to vote for our Kentucky coal miners, to vote for the people that are trying to put folks in affordable housing, and to vote for those citizens that need that affordable housing within the Commonwealth of Kentucky, so that they can get a roof over their head, get up, go to work, contribute their tax dollars to our general fund, enable us to fund education, enable us to fund priorities, and to put Kentucky back to work. Thank you very much, Mr. President.
Any other member who has yet to be previously recognized for the purpose of question or discussion on the bill? Senator from Jefferson, 37.
Thank you, Mr. President. I don't have to be a great whip to be able to count the votes on this bill into it. And so I look around, and as I'm listening to people speak, I think in a lot of parts there's not a lot of disagreement on worries about abuse of power. There's not a disagreement that we want to make sure that we have a diverse energy sources. There's not disagreement that we want to make sure that we're able to build additional housing. What I'm worried about is this is not narrowly tailored. And that's part of our job, is to, if there's a problem, we fix it with a scalpel, not a sledgehammer. And one thing I'm proud of is our Kentucky waterways. I'm proud of, how many people here are sportsmen? How many people are so proud of Kentucky and the beauty of Kentucky? And I sat through at the local level when the consent decree came and we had the pollution abuse of our waterways and all the money to mitigate that. And part of it was a worry how that was going to cost my constituents, but also ashamed of how we had treated our Kentucky. And so this isn't about whether or not there's going to be the overflow, because that is when it gets into the waters of the Commonwealth and it grows its way down into the streams. This is just saying that we can't test, that you can't catch them. Now, my father worked in Rubbertown. He worked at KVK, chemical reactor there, and they got hit several times for large pollutants into the waterways, into the Ohio River, and destroyed the food. I'll tell you that he's had 21 assists taken off his body from living in that area, and the people in there, we look at some of the higher cancer rates and all these other issues, and we can go, oh, that's liberal, that's ridiculous, but those are the people that we represent and we're supposed to be fighting for and we care about. Hell, that's my family. And so I'll work with this, and I'm going to work, hopefully, when it gets over to the House, to hopefully make this narrowly tailored so that we can achieve our goals. If there are abuses put in place, which we know there are, then we work to make that better. If the issue is about, the rates being high and the license fees being too high, then we work at that piece. But if this is really just about keeping us from testing our waterways onto it, then we can do better. So I'm a no vote.
Any other member seeking recognition for the purpose of question or discussion on the bill? Senator from Perry.
Yes, Mr. President, I rise to speak on the bill.
Please proceed.
You know, the skies have darkened, and the thunder has gathered and boomed, and the rain's beaten down, and there's been booming and chaos, and lightning strikes, and a cricket killed. And that's what's happened. We've made a lot of noise in this chamber over the last couple of years around this country about protecting our industry. And in the end, nothing's gotten done. You know, the President of the United States, President Trump, sat down within the first days of office, and he brought in 100 of the top businesses across this country, and he asked them a question. Would you rather me reduce your taxes, or would you rather me cut regulation, get the regulators off of you? And you know what they said? We'll pay our taxes. Get these regulators off of us. Give us a chance to get ourselves up and get these doors open again, because doors open and business open, that means people are going to be working. And I will tell you, the people in this country have stood up. They're upset by it. Your business communities stood up with it. They've been raising Cain, and we've literally been trying for a couple years, and I have to say under the brave leadership and thoughtfulness of the senator who has passed away now from Harlan County, to finally achieve something he started 3 years ago. Now, I've heard people speak against this, and I notice a lot of them are newer members. I will encourage you to go back to your district and sit down with your Chamber of Commerce and look at some of your big customers and the people in your district, and they come and issue with this. Because what's happened is today, everybody, you're seeing more chatter. You've seen this on the front page of the paper. They've accused everybody of being behind this bill. I'd happily take credit for being behind this bill. Because today it's sending a clear message that this abuse of regulatory language ends today. It stops today. The nonsense of all the noise and nothing getting done stops today with this bill. And we have worked with this cabinet, I don't know how many times. This governor has empowered them to literally look the other way, as was mentioned earlier by the senator from Clark, who is trying to work and come out and has just dug a ditch with a backhoe to have somebody come and make that an issue. That could be you at your house. So when the language can be weaponized because they don't like you, maybe they don't like your politics, maybe they don't like the type of work you're in, that's not what government does. That's not the cabinet's job. That's what's become of the cabinet. And that is why after many years of frustration of trying to work with them, then something had to be done. So your vote today is to say simply this: that is enough. The people that are trying to bring Kentucky up, trying to pull us up to compete, should have a fair chance. They should not be weaponized or have a cabinet that their taxes go to be supporting weaponized against them. And we see it time and time again. Permits that take 16 years. This is not a coal bill. That is what is hilarious. So everybody that says that, I can tell immediately they haven't read the bill. And they haven't gone home and talked to people. But I will tell you, I am sick of it. I've been here for a long time. I'd like to know that when I leave, that those times I have watched my family drive off in the car because I've had to come back here, that those days matter. And today's like today has gotten people so upset with you because you are making a change. They're chewing on our president because he is cleaning it out. And they're chewing on you right now because you're cleaning it out and you're making it work again. So we'll see these votes that come up there. But I would tell you something. People at home are wanting us to do something. They're sick of the silliness and all the promises and thunder that's been made and nothing done. Today is something being done. I've spoken far too long. You all understand this bill. This will help so many people in your district that has zero to do with coal. But you should not have a situation like what the senator from Clark got up and spoke about, but that happens in your district every day. And it's not fair. Some people get their stuff done in days. There's been permits done in 1 day. And then there's been people waiting for 16 years. I challenge you to go look and see what the difference is. Because in a lot of those cases, sadly, it's politics. And it ends today, Mr. President. I'd be very, very proud to support this bill.
Any other members seeking recognition for the purpose of question or discussion on the bill? Senator from Carter.
Thank you, Mr. President. I really didn't plan to speak today, but I'm going to add some thoughts because, you know, I worked with the Senator from Bell's predecessor on this issue, along with the Senator from Perry, for a number of years, and I certainly realize the rationale and support the premise. And permitting, as most of y'all know, in working with national groups on some of these issues, is probably the #1 issue and deterrent on how to best streamline that and get things done in a rational manner. So I think we need to pay a lot more attention to the permitting processes across the board in some of the instances that's been brought here today. And but you know, in my experience, you know, I was a coal miner. I was general counsel of the 4th largest coal company in the nation. I was also an environmental prosecutor. And in my role in the coal company, in our coal company, we strove to find a balance and be responsible citizens and to not, you know, because our people that work for us lived where the jobs were. And I just want to proceed with caution, and I think we can do a better job with conforming to the Supreme Court opinion and the practicality of the application in Kentucky, and the agency can do much better, and we can make changes to make them do much better, and I think we should. So I support the premise of this. And I've done a lot of work on water issues through my tenure here for governors of both parties. Governor Fletcher had me working on 404 water issues during his time, and we came real close to getting primacy with Secretary Wiltshire, who to me is one of the experts in the field. So I've devoted a lot of my time and interest here to water issues. And I will continue to, because water is our most valuable resource next to our people. And we've got to have water to attract business, to do business, and for people to live healthily and be responsible. And we're the policymakers for that. I also have a sportsman constituency that I represent nationally and in this Commonwealth. And I've had some concerns. I've moderated panels on fracking in Pennsylvania. And you know, I've spent a lot of time on the national issues, on habitat and sportsmen's issues. We've got, there's some groups that have concerns. I'm not saying we can't comfort them and provide them some solace in this. And while we're waiting on the cabinet analysis and the municipal water position on this, because they haven't taken a position on this with Kentucky League of Cities and other entities. And I think we can reach what we're trying to do here. There's no question. And the senator from Bell can be successful in this, and because we've been working on it a while, it needs to come to fruition, and we need some results. And further, I want to withstand any court challenge that might come along. We serve two masters with the federal government, like it or not, but that's what sometimes we have to do. So I suspect there would be court challenge. I think we can do better on this bill. I'm for the premise. I think we can do better, and we need to concentrate on permitting across the board, because that is a number one issue in almost every sector that we've talked about here today and beyond. So I might pass on this bill just to send a message that we can make it better and accomplish what we want to do. And I hope I get the opportunity to vote again on it. Thank you, Mr. President.
Any other member seeking recognition who is yet to be previously recognized? Senator from Bourbon.
Speak on the bill.
Please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise to speak on this bill. This is a very, very important bill for this Commonwealth. And I would like to attempt to shed a little history on the bill. I won't take very long. But to start out with, this bill is simply an attempt to have our state rules match the federal rules. That's all it is. Currently, our Kentucky rules are more expansive than the federal rules. And this is not a new fight. This Waters of the U.S. fight, WOTUS fight, has been going on for years and years and years, even decades. The Clean Water Act was initially passed in 1972, and the official definition in the statute itself says that this applies to navigable waters, tributaries, interstate waters, and certain interstate waters, such as Lake Cumberland, things of that nature. As is usual with many of our agencies, the EPA at some point, through their own rulemaking, greatly expanded that definition way beyond what the law ever intended for it to be. And that's when you started running into problems, as the senator from Clark expressed he encountered, where not only did the Clean Water Act apply to navigable waters and or waters that have a significant nexus to navigable waters, it applied to the water puddle in your backyard. And it was never, the Clean Water Act was never intended to go that far, and the EPA went way beyond its scope. Sometime later, the Supreme Court passed an important case called the Chevron case. And that case stated that the court shall give deference to the agencies in their rulemaking. Very poor decision by the court. Basically said, don't look at the rule of law, look at what the agency says about the rule of law. Luckily, in recent history, the Supreme Court has addressed that issue in the Loper Bright Enterprises versus Raimondo decision. And that basically pulled back Chevron, eliminated Chevron, and restored a bit of sanity. And that decision stands for the idea that no, you do not give deference to the rulemaking authority or the opinion of the agency. You must first look at what the law says on its face. What a novel idea. The court should look at the law. And so we have a history here in the Commonwealth when it comes to the WOTUS rule of our rule matching the federal rule. And so there's been changes in Washington with the WOTUS rule. I'm sure with this new administration, there will continue to be more changes with the WOTUS rule at the EPA. And this bill simply moves us from where we are, a more expansive WOTUS rule, to a rule that matches the federal rule. And so, as has been stated on the floor, this is not just a coal bill. This is not just a coal bill. This bill applies to coal, construction. I'm a farmer, it applies to agriculture. The way it stands now, the heavy hand of government can roll into your farm, roll into your construction site at any time and write you up because something went into that puddle or ditch on that site. The Clean Water Act was never meant to cover that sort of thing. I will say that I do share the concerns of the senators from Jefferson 35 and Jefferson 37 as it pertains to groundwater, and we can take a look at that. There can be separate legislation. This could be amended later in the House, but we need to move this thing out of here today. Our people and companies need to receive immediate relief, and I urge passage of Senate Bill 89.
Any other members seeking recognition for the purpose of the question or discussion on the bill? Senator from Fayette, 13.
You know, Mr. President, I was hoping for a very easy day, just get a few bills passed and move on. But the senator from Bourbon is right about one thing. This is an important bill. And I spent some time last night reading this bill. And as a lawyer, and you're a lawyer as well, Mr. President, words matter. When we talk about legislation, the words in the legislation matter. And the way Senate Bill 89 is written, and the public needs to know that, is that it eliminates any regulation over rivers, streams, springs, creeks, underground wells, and says that the only thing we're going to regulate in the future are navigable waterways. Now, for this not to be a coal bill, I've heard a lot about coal from my colleagues today who have spoken. But I want to focus on another industry that's near and dear to my area of Kentucky. That's the bourbon industry. That under the leadership of this chaotic president we have here in this country, he's imposed injurious tariffs that are significantly going to harm one of our signature industries in this state. We've already seen today several hundred layoffs in the bourbon industry as a result of the expectations these tariffs are going to cause. And when you talk about springs and creeks and underground wells and natural water, those are very valuable resources for our beloved bourbon industry. But under the passage of this bill today, those waterways now are going to be exposed and open to pollution and harm, and our state can't come in and protect those, which is going to even cause further harm to our bourbon industry. So that's what worries me today, Mr. President, as I read Senate Bill 89 and why I am going to vote against it. Because of the harm it's going to cause to our bourbon industry. And I want to close with one other comment, Mr. President. Now, I've heard a lot again about the coal industry and the importance of the coal industry, and the coal industry is important. There's no question. Everyone who's spoken today and had reservations about this bill do support our coal industry. But what I haven't heard, and I want to bring this to the people listening to this argument today, is what about the people of Eastern Kentucky? I haven't heard anything about them. And in preparing for this bill and reading this bill, I saw articles and commentary about the people of Eastern Kentucky who had serious concerns and serious fears about how this bill was going to impact their own water, their own cleaning water, their own drinking water. And there ought to be some concerns about the people of Eastern Kentucky as well. So I have serious reservations about this bill, as I've already articulated. And so therefore, I'm going to vote no on this bill because I think this is moving Kentucky and its valuable industries in the wrong direction.
Any other member who has yet to be previously recognized for the purpose of question or discussion on the bill? Seeing none, Senator from Green, would you assume the chair?
Motion for the body is on the passage of Senate Bill 89. Senator from Clay, the chair recognizes you for the purpose of speaking to the motion.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I'd like to communicate and discuss the bill with the body.
Please proceed.
Would the senator from Bell yield to a question?
Senator from Bell, will you yield to a question?
Yes, Mr. President.
Senator from Clay, he will yield.
Senator from Bell, shortly after you were elected, who brought this issue to your attention?
Senator from Bell.
Mr. President, that would be Senate President Stivers.
Senator from Clay.
Senator from Clay, I'm sorry.
Yes. Senator from Clay.
Apologize, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you, Senator from Bell. Just heard some comments on this floor about all the experience everybody had. I practiced law for close to 37 years. On 9/11, our sergeant at arms will remember where we were. We were talking about a coal deal in Clay County. I've had the trucking business in coal. My family's run over 1 million tons a year of coal. Probably nobody in this floor has benefited more from coal than me and my family, and specifically my children. But let me tell you what this is not, because I've heard a lot of people demonize coal. This is not just a coal bill. Matter of fact, if my colleagues from Jefferson County want to know how important coal is, look at what LG&E and KU burn to provide 70% of the energy to Louisville. Coal. What made possible the ability to have one of the first, if not the first, hyperscalers in this state, in Louisville? Coal. Words matter. I heard somebody reference one of the foremost experts in the field being former Secretary Luana Wiltshire, having worked on 404B issues. I did too. You know, I wish my old friend Rocky Atkins was still around. People in the coal industry thought they had a voice in the governor's office. Oh, wait a minute, he is still around. But let me tell you how this came to my attention to bring it to the senator from Bell's attention. Luana Wiltshire, a foremost authority on the issue. She came to me not because of coal, but because of business interest and farmers' interest in southern central Kentucky. Words matter. Foremost authority, as stated by my colleague from Carter, the senator from Carter. This is about this administration nationalizing, and I very rarely do this, a Democrat platform to change energy policy in the way that has been totally disregarded by the election of the current president, and an attempt to demonize something that made this nation great by changing the narrative and saying that it's not well thought out, but when you find out who the author of the language was, it happens to be one of the people that they say is one of the foremost authorities. This is a good piece of legislation, and it needs to be passed. And it doesn't need to be a political football for which people are trying to make it. Thank you, Mr. President.
You know, the member seeking to speak. Any other member seeking to speak to the motion that has not previously been recognized? Senator from Jefferson 33, have you spoken on this motion?
I have not.
Please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. President. In fact, I did not intend to speak on this, but my friend, the senator from Clay, never misses an opportunity to raise a little humor about our longevity in this body. And I have to say that longevity has its benefits in some regards. And part of that is observing how we conduct our business and how we argue issues, trying to put the best policy forward in the interest of the people of the Commonwealth. I grew up a stone's throw from Rubbertown in West Louisville. I can tell you from experience what it means to be impacted by the environment when it's not regulated properly. I can tell you people's lives who have been adversely affected, including my own, by these impacts. This is not about not having regulations. This is not about killing the coal industry or some other industry. Obviously, we must have thriving industries to have economies that embellish what everyone wants to happen in their lives and their families' lives, and that is to do better and to provide adequately, et cetera. I think we're all on the same page here. But what doesn't amaze me, I find it interesting. In this body and other bodies like it, the way we set up our system, I accept it, we talk in extremes. We come in with hammers. We come in and let our frustration show, and that's not bad. We human beings, we are affected. We reflect what impacts us in life. We express our aspirations. And when we do policy, all of that comes out here. So I accept that. So I hear the frustration from those over years that have been adversely affected by those regulations and our policies, our federal government, or some other dynamic in our society that adversely affects their desire to do what I just stated. We want to do better. We want to do more. We want great economies. We want to go higher. We all want the same thing. But we live in a complex society. And that means that we have to find balance and rationality in how we move. And this is not meant to state that anything that was said on this floor, it's not meant to denigrate anything that's said on this floor that's expressed, because they're expressing very important parts of what I'm talking about. Parts of what I'm talking about. You must find balance. This is not about somebody trying to be mean or ugly or maybe sometimes ill-advised. We must find balance. Coal is here in our past, it's here now, it will be in our future. It's important to Kentucky, we know that. But guess what? The health and welfare of our environment and our citizenry is just as important, if not more. But let's put them on an equal scale here. The question is, how do we reach the balance that serves the best of both interests? I think we can do that. And I think this bill starts down that road. But as has been expressed in this body, it is broad. We don't have to subscribe to minimum standards of the federal government, which is set up to do. We can apply those things that are germane to us, that serve us in this Commonwealth. And I've already stated what that is. So this is not against coal or against some other aspect of the industries. We have no perfection. But we can't, I caution my colleagues, to go in just extremes does not get us to our objectives, although it's part of the process. I understand. We can tailor this in a way that achieves the objectives that some of the emotional and directed and sincere expressions on this floor today, to address those at the same time, address our concerns regarding the environment. They are not mutually exclusive. And the more we talk in extremes, the more we do not come to the center to find the rational answers, the more we do not tailor our policies to fit those outcomes we all want, the more imperfect our work is in this body. I caution that. So I'm hopeful that at the other end, it's going to pass in this body, obviously, that at the other end, that they will deal with this subject matter as I'm framing it now, so that we can come up with an outcome we all can live with, and that can be a win-win. I'm confident there can be a win-win. This bill, as structured from where I'm sitting, is not adequate at this point in time. I will vote no. But it's not because I want to kill the bill. It won't be killed. I'm hopeful that at the other side, and that members here will encourage folks from the other side to find the correct tailoring and balance to get the outcome we all want. Thank you, Mr. President.
Any other member seeking recognition to speak to the motion that has not previously been recognized? Senator from Bell.
I encourage the passage of Senate Bill 89 at this time, then, Mr. President.
Thank you, sir. The motion for the body is on the passage of Senate Bill 89. Those in favor will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Senator Berg. Senator Boswell.
What did he say?
Senator Boswell. Senator Carpenter. Senator Carroll. Senator Chambers Armstrong. Senator Deneen. Senator Douglas. Senator Elkins. Senator Funke Fromeyer. Senator Girdler. Senator Givens. Senator Herron. Senator Higdon. Senator Howell. Senator Maiden. Senator Mays Bledsoe. Senator McDaniel. Senator Meredith. Senator Mills. Senator Neal. Senator Nemes. Senator Nunn. Senator Rocky Adams. Senator Rawlings. Senator Reed. Senator Richardson. Senator Smith. Senator Stivers. Senator Storm. Senator Thomas. Senator Tishner. Senator Webb.
Senator from Carter, please cast your vote, then explain. Limited to 3 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'll be brief. I'm going to vote aye, even though, you know, I have practiced a little longer than my good friend, the senator from Clay, but he knows that too. But anyway, and out of appreciation from the senator from Bell and in deference to the memory of my 1998 classmate, the former senator from Bell, I think I made my points. I think there's been good concerns raised. I think there, issues are out there to watch for and to probably avoid. So I think we should try to do that and make this a better bill. But I certainly support the concept and the premise and the want to correct the inequities that was the motivation of this bill. So I vote aye.
Senator West. Senator Wheeler.
Senator from Pike, please cast your vote, then explain, limited to 3 minutes.
Mr. President, I proudly cast an aye vote in memory of my dear friend, the late senator from Harlan, and as a thank you to my new colleague who is continuing his proud legacy, the senator from Bell, and for the many, many coal miners who labor each and every day in my district, and to make the land available for more housing developments and to further the economic progress in the Commonwealth of Kentucky.
Senator Williams. Senator Wilson. Senator Wise. Senator Yates.
Any other members seeking recognition for the purpose of casting, changing, or explaining their vote? Seeing none, there being 30 yeas, 5 nays, Senate Bill 89 is passed.